God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans, white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
Prayer today by Bill Cottle, pledge by Jim Johnson, four-way test by Mary Prukoff.
My dear Father in heaven, thank you for the opportunity we have to have a community service group. Thank you for the food we've had. We ask our blessings upon it, upon this place, that we may be in thy service at all times. In Jesus Christ, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The four-way test of the things you think, say, or do. 1.
Is it true?
2.
Is it fair to all concerned?
3.
Will it build goodwill and better friendships?
4.
Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
I'd like to welcome everyone to the May 7th meeting. Some visitors here today. Mr. Jim Johnson, you have. Mayor Blake Lay. County Executive T.R. Williams. Mr. Barry Doss. Couple of announcements. Remind everybody about the board meeting this Monday night, 5:30 in this room. Tad, you had an announcement?
Well, Wednesday, there's a meeting in this room, 5:30.
And then keep reminding you about the truck and tractor pull, June 4th and 5th. Posters up here to put up anywhere you can. Still got a bunch of them. I'll have signs here in the next week or so to go out for yard signs for that. With that, Mr. Risky Skillington.
Best hand he's ever got.
That's right. Hey. Let's not get personal. Got a couple of other guests here that's with our speaker today. Chris Berger out of the communications department there. And also he brought with him Jim Tracy. Now, Jim is a former state senator and former director of rural development for the state of Tennessee. And after the new group took over the White House, Jim was seen walking up and down in front of Governor Lee's office with a hand-painted sign that says, "Will abuse taxpayer dollars for food." So they got him a job there. Jim and I go back years. We were in college together, and Jim likes to tell everybody that only way I graduated from college was because of him. And he's probably right, because he and I walked down the aisle and picked up our diplomas side by each. And the night we graduated, I was sick. I had a bad case of 80 proof flu. And I think it was Jim that helped me up the steps to go by and get my, I'm not sure, but I think it was he. So Jim and I go back many years, and it's always good to see him. Our speaker today is Mr. Carter Lawrence. He's the commissioner of the Tennessee Department of Commerce and Insurance. He has one of the probably the department that he's over probably has more regulators and deals with more than any other department in the state of Tennessee government. He served in numerous different jobs in the Department of Commerce and Insurance. He is an attorney, for graduate of the University of Tennessee, and also got his MBA while at UT. He's a Nashville area relative. He's married, he and his wife, Amy, are proud parents of 3 children and an old dog, Otto. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Commissioner of Commerce and Insurance, Mr. Carter Lawrence.
Switch over. I've got a PowerPoint for y'all. Is it up on this already? Oh,
Yeah.
perfect. There it is. And will I click through
You have
this right here? Wonderful. Thank
You'll
you.
need to look at it up here.
Okay. Got it. All right. Well, thank you for the introduction, and thanks to the team. I do want to clarify, I was the one who actually had to ask Jim to come work for me.
No, don't tell him that. Everybody in the life for him.
Jim's a great asset, has served the state for a long time, and I'm really thankful that he's come to continue his state service at Commerce and Insurance, which really fits with his decades of experience in the insurance industry. And then also something I've realized is that there's not a place you can go in the state of Tennessee where Jim doesn't know someone in the room. So he's a huge asset. I appreciate him being here. And then also Chris Berger, who is our Chief Strategy Officer, which is a fancy way of saying that he does our communications and does all other items as needed, which does include things like this as well. So thanks to Chris also for coming down here. And I appreciate the invitation to be here. I'm glad you didn't read the entire bio because it is pretty long and there's a lot in there that I didn't realize, like my old dog, who, by the way, is an aside. When your dog wakes up in the night and needs to go out and starts eating grass, that means your dog's going to be thrown up in the night, which is what happened to me this morning. My dog was thrown up all morning. So my old dog is not doing so hot. But thanks again for the invitation to come be with you today. I was going to talk a little bit about the Tennessee Department of Commerce and Insurance. And maybe before I do that, I will mention a little bit about myself, separate from the being an attorney and a lifelong Vols fan. So hope there are some others around here. Go Vols. I was fortunate to be part of the Haslam for Governor campaign in 2010. So I was his Middle Tennessee field rep. So I actually was in Lawrence County a bit back then. Had 27 counties that I was responsible for, of which we ended up winning 25. So we were pretty proud about that. After the campaign finished up, I was in Governor Haslam's administration before I left to go to law school, business school. After I finished that up, I did some more political work before joining the Haslam administration as the assistant commissioner for the regulatory boards. Because as Rick identified, Commerce Insurance does a lot, including the 7 divisions that are up on the screen in front of you. And I'll talk through those really briefly. But so Commerce and Insurance has 3 big components of what it does. The insurance kind of stands for itself, but then the other 2 big divisions are fire prevention, which includes the state fire marshal's office, and then also the regulatory boards division. The regulatory boards, I like to say it's the ABCs of professional licensure, everything from accountants to boxers and mixed martial arts to contractors. So there's a pretty good chance if someone's got a license with the state of Tennessee and it's not health, that it's probably with TDCI. And we've got close to 300,000 folks who are licensed through us. We also have securities, which is because of the amount of federal oversight, is one of those that is kind of tricky in its regulation. And then administratively attached to us is the Tennessee Emergency Communications Board. So just point out that one only administratively attached to us. We don't have direct oversight of them. The Tennessee Law Enforcement Training Academy and Peace Officers Standards and Training Commission. And as y'all can imagine from all that's been happening nationwide, that's been a really huge focus for us to try and improve police morale, because police forces are suffering. I don't know about here, and I hope there haven't been issues with finding and retaining good officers, but that's definitely been a struggle. So what we have at the Tennessee Law Enforcement Training Academy is outside of the major metro areas who have their own academies, we are the resource where officers can go be trained in the state. And we're really proud of the decades of work that have happened there. And we think that we have the premier law enforcement training academy in the Southeast. And then TennCare oversight is the last thing we do, which TennCare oversight means that they are watching TennCare to make sure that the HMOs are paying their claims properly. So that's kind of us in a nutshell. We have about 850 total positions with the state. About 200 of those are part-time and the rest full-time. So as it goes with state agencies, we're actually on the small-ish size. You know, there's state agencies with 5,000, 10,000 employees. So we're on the smaller side. Our budget is huge though, because included in our dollars are the TECB, which is all passed through. So we have a $229 million budget, but of that, I believe about 110 million is TECB. But we are all, and our funding is different than a lot of the other agencies. We have dedicated revenue streams. So if we go back to the professional licensure, you think about the accountants, or we have real estate agent here, I was glad to chat with before lunch. Those fees that the real estate agent pays funds their board's operations. It's in a dedicated revenue stream. It's the same thing for us for insurance, and the same thing as well for fire prevention. So our general fund appropriations are actually only $10 million. And of that 10 million, a lot of that's actually passed through as well, that goes to the academies. All right. So I totally left script. So Chris Berger will talk to me about that later, but I'll try to get back to it.
You're great, boss.
Thanks. So one of the things I guess I failed to mention was about 2 years ago, I got appointed as the interim commissioner of Commerce and Insurance when the long-serving commissioner left and they needed someone to step into the role. And when I did that, had the opportunity to pull together our leadership team and rethink our mission, vision, and values. Since we had a new governor, we wanted to be aligned with the new governor and make sure that we were doing the best that we could to be efficient government and really serve the people. So we rethought it a little bit, and you can see our mission, vision, values up on the screen, which I won't read through all of it. But at the end of the day, the last statement that you see on there about serving all 6.9 million Tennesseans is what we want to do, and we want to do it as efficiently as possible and as focused on the customers as we possibly can, so that the people who, let's face it, have to deal with us, because we're a government agency, that when they have to deal with us, it's going to be a good experience. And we put in a lot of ways to measure what our customer experience looks like. And we've made a lot of good progress, but we know that there's always progress to be made. And so we're really focused on moving forward in that regard. Oops. Was that me?
Okay.
I'm sorry. I clicked the button and.
There you go.
Okay. All right. So next couple slides talk about insurance, and I'll start out talking about the economic. Could you advance to the next one, please? The economic impact of insurance. Anyone who actually, I'd show of hands. Anyone here in the insurance business? Okay, awesome. A few. And now if I were to ask whose lives are impacted by insurance, everyone would raise their hands, because it truly does impact all of us. I think some of the numbers up here will help show what I'm talking about. So we now have, and I'll get to it later, we have about 1,907 insurance companies in the state, and the assets that they hold are close to $100 billion a year. So the Tennessee insurance marketplace is the 33rd largest in the entire world, and we're the 16th largest in the country, which is actually makes sense because that's where we fall in our population numbers as well. So on all policies have premium taxes included with it, and that's part of what I was talking about with the dedicated revenue stream, which funds a really small part of our operations and then a really big piece of the general fund. As Senator Tracy and Representative Chairman Doss would well recall as well, that's a lot of money, and it's now over $1 billion, and I think we're projecting for this next year for it to be close to $1.2 billion. So we're talking about a huge economic impact to the general fund and the ability to fund all sorts of projects that are happening around the state. And then the last piece, and this number's a little bit old, but there are estimated 50,000 plus Tennesseans who are directly employed in the insurance industry in the state of Tennessee. So absolutely a huge impact and pervasive across the state, impacting everyone. And, you know, all of the development that we're seeing, there's not a single project that happens without proper risk management. And that means insurance. And so it's it's really the lifeblood of the continued development that we're seeing in the state. So we're really proud of the insurance marketplace that we have and being able to efficiently and effectively make sure that policies are getting written and ultimately risk is getting managed. Could you advance? All right, so I won't take y'all through every single bullet point here, but this broadly, you're seeing what the insurance division is. And to move through it, we take a look at policies, make sure that they comply. We license agents, which there are now over 226,000 licensed agents in Tennessee. We check for solvency of the companies, ultimately to be able to make sure that when a claim is made, a claim is paid. And a company has to be solvent in order to do that. And that falls on us to do that. And we do examinations to make sure that's happening. And we also help with mediation when there are disputes. And through those efforts, we return more than $10 million a year to consumers across the state. Final bullet point up there is about captive insurance. Captive insurance is a way to own your own risk. And Tennessee changed the laws in 2011 in order to make Tennessee a competitive place for that. And we're really proud of the growth that we've had in captive insurance. I'll talk about that in a little bit. Next slide, please. Oh, I'll talk about it on this slide. Like I said, captives have grown a lot, and most large companies use it for at least part of their risk. And the reason why they'll do it is because of a hardening market, meaning it's more difficult to either get coverage or to get affordable coverage. And so they're right in particular areas where they can manage their own risk better. And so for Tennessee, it's been a win for us because we have been able to attract some good high paying jobs to the area and also have a small contribution to the general fund as well. And if anyone wants to talk captives or if you have any interest, we've got a great captive team that can help you think through your risk and come up with a good solution for you. Next slide, please. All right, I guess one more on captives. So you got some numbers up here. So we are the 9th largest captive domicile in the United States, which globally makes us 15th globally out of 71 domiciles. So we compete in this space against Bermuda, the Cayman Islands, Delaware, Vermont. It's all over the country, and it's really all over the world. We have to compete to say we're going to turn around your applications quickly. We're going to process all your requests fast, and we're going to have a competitive tax rate. And that's what we've done. So we've gone from really nothing in 2011 to the numbers that you see up here now. So we're proud of the work that we've done there. All right, so the reg boards are what I mentioned earlier with all of those occupational licenses. And you can see the numbers up there, close to 300,000 active licensees. Rather than go through all of this, I will add onto this that we are really focused on, we operate within the specific statutory framework that we are given, but we also want to be really cognizant of not over expanding government reach into people's lives. So we want to take a conservative view that is still protecting consumers as we're required to by law, but not to be too heavy-handed with our regulation. So we have actually proposed some ways to reduce regulation over the years. And we have partnered with the General Assembly about removing some licenses that are required. A few years ago, y'all might recall about taking away our efforts in taking away hair braiding licenses and broadly things that have become over the years licensed where consumers aren't getting harmed. We want to be a voice to say, this doesn't make sense. And we've done that in the past. And we want to continue to identify ways that we can get government out of folks' lives while still protecting consumers. Next slide, please. All right, so really proud of this slide here. The big number that I'll draw your attention to is the 45 versus 20. And what you're seeing there is the average application processing time. So back in 2015, it took us 45 days to process your average license request. So someone wants to come get licensed as a real estate agent or an accountant, any of the things that I mentioned earlier. It took on average 45 days, and we're now at less than half of that at 20. And I will add in as an aside, the reason that it's still at 20 is that we have some professions who have a lot of requirements that they have to do. So if you think about accountants have a lot that they have to send to us. And so that number is part of what makes it higher than what it truly is. Because if you want to get licensed in the state of Tennessee as a hairdresser, for example, and you've gone through your schooling, TDCI will process that license within 2 days. We're turning these around so much faster than the 45 where we used to be. So we're really proud of the work that we put in there. And that's been driven through moving away from paper-based applications to an online-based system, which has been really widely adopted everywhere from the major metro areas to the most rural of places. We've seen incredible internet adoption numbers. So we're really proud of what we built there and continuing to make good progress there. Next slide, please. All right, so the third of the big divisions that I mentioned for us is fire prevention. And so one component of that is the State Fire Marshal's Office. I'll just pause real quick because I often have people ask me, why would you have both insurance and reg boards and fire marshal duty, fire prevention? And maybe at first blush, it doesn't seem too logical until you think about the impact of fire on insurance, and that you want to make sure that the State Fire Marshal's Office is working hand in glove with insurance in order to drive down risks, to make sure that we're doing a better job of insuring and ultimately trying to make a more affordable product with insuring people's homes. So that's why we are the State Fire Marshal's Office. In fact, actually, my son loves it, but I'm the State Fire Marshal. So I've got the shiny badge, which my 6-year-old thinks is about the coolest thing in the world. And I have had to clarify because I heard him telling some people that I was a firefighter. And I did not want to get into any stolen valor type territory. So I said, no, son, I'm the State Fire Marshal, not a firefighter. But we are really proud of the State Fire Marshal's Office. And I'll highlight a few of the numbers that you see up on the screen in front of you. We have a program called Get Alarmed. And through the Get Alarmed smoke program, we go out and we install smoke detectors in areas of high need. So we use this mapping data and we'll find places that are more likely to have fires because maybe they've had some in the past and it's a lower income area. And we will go into those communities and we'll partner with local groups like a Boy Scouts troop, and we will go and install smoke detectors. And so we put in close to 250,000 smoke detectors, and those have actually saved, I thought we had the number up there. 300, over 320. Okay, so over 300 lives. So there have been more than 300 times where a smoke detector has gone off and where the local fire department said, but for there being a smoke detector in that house, someone would have died. And so we're incredibly proud of that work. And of course, it's saving lives, but it's also reducing loss of property, which helps ultimately everyone with your home insurance. So we're really proud of that number as well. Another piece to highlight here is that, so we support fire departments. And we support both the career and the volunteer. And as y'all probably know, Tennessee is still primarily a volunteer fire department led state. And really proud of the fact that for the first time ever, Governor Lee included in his budget, and the General Assembly was good to pass, a pay supplement for training for the volunteer firefighters, so that like the career firefighters, they have an extra incentive to go get additional training and to be rewarded for that. So the career firefighters, they get $800, and the volunteers will now get $600 when they complete their annual training. And so what we expect to see from that is a continued professionalizing of those volunteer firefighters in the departments. And ultimately, we hope that will help with their ISO rates, and it will help drive down the cost of insurance, particularly in the rural areas where these volunteer departments are so important. I think we can advance to the next slide, please. So a few more things that we do in the State Fire Marshal's Office. We have codes enforcement. And in 2020, we did 17,000 of those, which includes over 1,600 schools. We do electrical, residential, and marine inspections. And we also inspect manufactured housing and modular building as well. Next slide. Okay, the Tennessee Fire and Codes Academy, really proud about this. In the same way that I talked about Tennessee Law Enforcement Training Academy, we also have the state Tennessee Fire and Codes Academy. So for the non-major metro areas who want to train their firefighters, they can send them to beautiful Bell Buckle, Tennessee, and they can get the best in the nation training at a facility that we continue to focus on improving. And they've got world-class instructors to train them there. And then the other piece of the State Fire Marshal's Office is the Commission on Firefighting Personnel Standards and Education. And as the name suggests, they are tasked with putting together the standards and the education, and ultimately the administering of some of what I was talking about earlier with those pay supplements for the volunteers and for the career as well. Next slide. Oh, took it all the way to the end. So I know I skipped over some of that because the screen was kind of far away for y'all to see, and I want to get into it too in depth, but also to leave time to answer any questions for me or for anyone in my team. But I'll close before we go to questions by saying thanks again for giving me the opportunity to come down, talk a little bit about TDCI, talk about the things that we're doing, and trying to serve all of you, because we really do take to heart our mission of serving all 6.9 million Tennesseans every single day. So I'll pause there and see if there are any questions.
Do you have anything to do with extended car warranties?
Let me guess, you're getting phone calls about it.
One or two a day.
I will draw a distinction. Warranties, not insurance. So no, we do not, but don't take those phone calls. I think it's a scam.
Do you regulate health insurance as well?
So health insurance would fall under us. And so there are distinctions there with the types of plans. So the large group employers are not under our purview. But if you think about the marketplace, ACA, that is under us. And then there's also further distinction, because I know we've got a gentleman from Farm Bureau. Farm Bureau health plans are not insurance, so that is not under us. So in every area, there are always lots of different caveats. Like when I mentioned securities earlier and the intersection between federal and us, that definitely applies on the health as well. And the ERISA plans being outside of our area makes it hard to answer your question with a definitive yes or no, but broadly, yes, we do have oversight in health insurance.
I don't have a follow-up question. I was just wondering if that was something.
It is, yeah. Yes, sir.
I'm not sure if you're familiar with the bill that was submitted or introduced to eliminate the special privilege tax.
I am.
How would that positive or negatively affect your department?
So it wouldn't impact me at all from a funding standpoint. It would positively impact us by getting rid of confused consumers who reach out and think that it's us. So as you know, the privilege tax has been pared back a lot, but it still applies to, for example, securities. And one of the reasons is because there's so many securities agents. When you're talking about $400 a pop, that is a lot of money for the state to give up. I would expect that in the next legislative session, we'll see more work on that. But none of that funding goes to us. That is, straight to revenue and into the general fund. A great question, and that's a fight. I pay it myself as an attorney, and I would like to not pay it, but I know that
I'm okay with it. I get a lot of business, not a lot of business, but some business. People moving from Alabama or Tennessee, and their advisor sees, oh, I got to pay an extra $400.
Right.
They're gonna find somebody local.
Right. Yeah, the General Assembly, I believe, looked at trying to keep it just on out-of-state agents, but the Constitution prohibited that. So it has to be applied to all or none. Can't quite do that. All right. Well, if nothing else, I'm going to be around again. Thank you for the opportunity to come be with y'all today and for lunch and for letting us have a few minutes to talk about TDCI. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Y'all must know more about Ricky than I think, or y'all never would have come down here. He's got something on you for sure. Remind everybody about the board meeting Monday, fair steering Wednesday, and the tractor pull. Thank you to our special guests that come today. With that, everybody have a safe weekend.